that Reliance had also struck gas in the Kempe Basin. So hydrocarbon vision for the country 2025 also envisages encourage use of natural gas, which is relatively a clean fuel, ensure adequate availability by a mix of domestic and which we are already doing, tap unconventional sources like hydrates, etc. Now I have put this figure slightly different, this map. Here what I would like you to note is that the country is going to invest $9 billion into their gas pipeline infrastructure, which will be 8,500 kilometers long, crisscross along the country. There are going to be Dahej expansion, so Dahej terminal, Hazira terminal, Dabhol is already there, Cochin, Ennore also planned, and as you may know, there are some more also in the planning. So overall supply scenario for the country is going in a big way to do this. So these are all good news. GSPC, as you know, in Gujarat we have been able to lay a statewide pipe network making the gas available. But this good news is eclipsed. All the good news that I have been talking about so far are eclipsed by gas pricing scenario. In this connection, I would cite the Russian example, in which the Russian ambassador had come to my city Ahmedabad and FICCI had organized a discussion, and I knew through my business friends that because they export in a big way to Russia, saying that the electricity price in Russia is relatively very stable and low, making things affordable. So I asked him a question as to how do you manage this? He says, very simple. We have a large dependence on natural gas, and we have insulated the price of our natural gas from the world, meaning thereby that we have our own domestic cost and add to that a normal profit for investment, etc. And that is the price which is helping us in getting a lower tariff, which is affordable. In this connection, there is one more thing. Just 2 days ago in Economic Times, this Mr. Pushpavanam from Chennai, he has written a very good article which I have just distributed. And the highlights of this is that this is all need to be really carefully examined, and practically he says that 50% of whatever is the cost being recovered from us is going to taxes. And even if all the other arguments, which also he has very logically very well developed, even if we put that aside, they are very valid arguments, but even if we put that aside, I am putting up a very simple logic that pricing of natural gas should be within the domestic area, cost of production amortized over a period of, let's say, 20 years, and a reasonable profit, and nothing more. To my mind, this $4.5 per million BTU is too high a figure, which one cannot believe for natural gas, which is you are just extracting. And that is one of the points that he has also brought about. So one of my basic submissions is that if we want to achieve 50,000 megawatts through gas and bio, then you have to have a relook at your gas pricing policy. There is no other way. And there are additional reasons for that gas price being revisited on the lower side and being fixed. In fact, I would even go to the extent of saying that we should incentivize decentralized power. The reason is that, number one, we all know that efficiency is resulting into less consumption of natural gas. There is a less cost per megawatt for all these decentralized. If I go for 1 megawatt or 2 megawatt, 5 megawatts, I know that it is much less than what you go for, not that 1 million per megawatt. It is much less than that. Then less greenhouse gases also we know. So all this justifies. There is a greater justification for the smaller plants, is because for every megawatt generated at the consuming point, you are saving 3 megawatts at the generating station. Meaning thereby that if I put up even at $1 million per megawatt, $1 million plant, I am saving 3 million. Meaning thereby there is a gap of $2 million per megawatt if you are going for decentralized. Is this not a good enough reason to incentivize decentralized and to give a better price, affordable price for natural gas? That is my submission. Pricing of gas we have already seen. So that is as far as the gas is concerned. In fact, I would even go to the extent of saying that natural gas price for decentralized generation should not be higher than $2.5 per million BTU. So that is on the gas side. And now for biofuels, where there are going to be better speakers, and therefore I will just limit myself to a few comments. We know that Jatropha is being tried, and there are some other crops also. Jatropha, as my friend Dr. Prashant Bhatt will later bring about, needs to be not thrown out, but do some genetic engineering, and how it can benefit he is going to point out. We all know the benefit that this plant can last for 50 years once grown. Then there are byproducts like glycerin, oil cake, etc. And government support is required in terms of making wasteland available, and also going in for cooperatives, which was earlier touched by Mr. Prabhu also, in the similar manner as the dairy project, dairy cooperative in Gujarat. So there are vast opportunities in biofuel through Jatropha and algae, which I will slightly touch on algae, which is an unexplored area. There are other things also which my friends from MTU, opportunities in decentralized power generation using fuel cell and hydrogen energy also exist, which we need to really encourage and go in a big way. So biogas also greatly helps, and for that there are many successful examples. I think Mr. Prabhu also quoted, and also the Mr. Dr. Radesh Khanna also gave some examples of Madhya Pradesh, etc. I am giving example of right here in Maharashtra at Jalgaon. There are 1 megawatt each, 2 plants are working very successfully for a fruit waste plant. Then at Baroda Muniseva Ashram, a 1.5 megawatt gas-based plant, biogas-based plant is coming up, in which 0.7 will be consumed for their own needs and rest will be given to the grid. Likewise, even for smaller, that is where the real decentralized thing comes, that there is a village called Thamna near Umret in Anand district, where they are putting up 15 kV plants. So small as that, because that is the kind of raw material available there. And he said that I don't want to feed it to the grid. I will operate my cold storage plant, because as you know that without cold storage so much of crop is being wasted. And that Government of India, MNRE, has given them 30 such plants to be operated by them. A very progressive village. In fact, this came from in Gujarat, the people have gone for Nirmal Gujarat, so clean Gujarat. So, as a part of clean Gujarat, they said that we would utilize all the waste and produce this 15 kV for that particular village. So, this algae to oil, I will just dwell a bit. We all know that compared to, maybe most of the people may not even know, that what is the comparison of the yield of the oil per hectare per year. If we compared oil palm, it is 5950, coconut is 2689, Jatropha is 1892, rapeseed is 1190, peanut is 1059, sunflower is 952, safflower is 446, corn is 172. As against microalgae can be 1,80,000. That is the kind of liters of oil per hectare per year that microalgae. Therefore, in a strong way, we should promote this algae, which of course in US and other places is large amount is being given by the government for that development. And there the target is to bring the microalgae price from that is 40 cents per liter to 26 cents. So this is the inputs for microalgae is sunlight on the one side, and then CO2 from the flue gas, water, nutrients. So the waste you are putting it to the use. So mass culture in a pond and many other ways of doing it, which perhaps Dr. Prashant Bhatt will touch. Then harvest and process. So this I have already discussed. So this is the kind of tank that I have personally gone and seen at Colorado, and it is also operating in a big way. So I am through. I am through. Just this is the last one slide. Okay, this is the last slide. That at Baroda we are already trying to work on this algae, and we are open to joint venture funds and things like that, with or without technology. I mean, with technology or just funds. So I think with that my lecture ends.
We are taking for the larger plants, and here the cost can come down by 68% or so, and the emissions can go down. I think now we will have Mr. T.C. Arora, who would give also a fantastic insight into it. He has some very excellent ideas. I think we must hear him, and we'll ask Dr. Patil to wind up what he saw at the end quickly. Mr. T.C. Arora, please.
Today we had a battery of wisdom sitting on the dais, and we learned a lot about technology, studies, and what need to be done and what can be done. But decentralization, what it does, very simple. It brings the CO2 emission to a large extent very low as compared to the centralized or fossil fuel which is we are burning. Brings down the energy consumption levels. Why I say so? Because if 100 energy units are burned in a coal-based power plant, 22 go to consumption. 22 goes to the consumer for burning or running your home appliances. The rest is all gone in the waste heat or in the transmission distribution. Whereas, as Dr. Khanna said, 75% goes in captive and 96% in the decentralization. So that is the biggest advantage. The consumption levels of the energy are really, it enhances. That means it also enhances the energy security. It also gives technology innovation, brings the competition, and that is where we should be putting more pitch on the decentralization. And I fully agree with you, there's 50 gigawatt. So until as we have the large capacities, we will not be able to get technology innovation or cost competitiveness. It is not only the gas and biofuel. There are other modalities also to be included in the decentralization, and we should take the economic advantage of the renewable energies in this. It saves the consumer money in the long run. Increases public involvement in the climate change. Now it's a buzzword, climate change. Everybody talks about the climate change. Yes, it is a need. We have been ignoring for centuries. Now we need to do it. And with this can be done with public involvement. And when you go to decentralization into rural areas, there will be involvement of the public. And it also increases the role of the local political leadership. And that's very necessary because they are people who will really influence the policy construct to enhance use of decentralized power. Yes, there are vested interests. They would definitely not like decentralization power to be success, as they've done in case of solar. Otherwise, solar has been doing the research for the last 25 years, and in India we have 12 megawatt, although the production of the modules have been there for the last 15 years. So there have been some vested interest. Without naming them, it has been there. and it will continue to be there, but still we have to fight out it. It will also incubate some new technologies, new innovation method to improve the performance, and what we should do now. Without going to details what speakers have said, what we should do now. First, we have to educate the regulator that 4,000 megawatt or 8,000 megawatt is not only the development. This is also development. 60,000 people, 60,000 villages in the country do not have access to the power. And I do not believe that 60,000 megawatts in ultra mega will reach power to those people. But the decentralized can definitely make an intent in that. We should come out with a white paper stating that what needs to be done for the decentralized power to reach the power where it is generated. It's like in Diya Tale Andhera. So the people where it is required, we are not making decentralized power overly for hospitals or shopping malls and all those things. That is a very short-sighted view. It is required, but it is still a short-sighted view. We need to go to the 40% population of this country which do not have access to power. You can't go to the villages and see the people staying in the night in the dark by burning the wood because they want some light. So it's you have to bring an equilibrium. You can't make this kind of power what you have. How much power is being used here? But imagine you giving one lamp to each house in village. Is that going to be more beneficial for the country, for the development, or this? So this is the thought. I leave it here and for you to brood on it. Thank you.
So I would like to finally call Dr. Patil, but just let me make one statement before that. The whole issue is that that entire decentralized game could go in a big way if biofuel and Jatropha extract is gone. Of course, we keep arguing, me and Pranavji, but I have a very different view on Jatropha. I don't want to take names, but I must tell you, the ethanol lobby is attempting to kill Jatropha in India. I'm pretty clear. We do not need what America needs. They are actually fueling their automotives. Whereas in India, we need to generate power from the Jatropha extract. And one of the reasons that it has not moved, and Dr. Patil will throw some more light on it because he has some example, is because that particular farmers who are going to grow this crop will grow in almost a wasteland. And the bogey is being created that we will have a food security crisis, when it is very clear that it has to be grown in wasteland. And that is that those farmers who are absolutely marginal will suddenly get a cash crop, and they would stand in front of the other political power that we have in the village economy. And if this is tilted and shifted and somehow worked upon, in a mass move, we have the Reliances here, and we have the other people here who are capable. If we can take this will be the biggest revolution of India, because that particular thing, they can fuel their vehicle, they can run their entire electricity, and that we will not look at the lamp also, probably, sir. Because lamp would be the beginning to give them the confidence. But actually, they would fuel and they will put that electricity into the grid. Let us have an Indian solution. Let us have an Asian solution. Because Asian management, there is something called that. There is something called Asian strategy. And what we have imported all these years, I have never accepted it. In a way that they only understand to superimpose that in their markets. But we have a unique solution at our end. And Jatropha is definitely a crop that can revolutionize that entire market for decentralized power. Believe me, it is all about that poor marginal farmer. If he suddenly gains and he gets 30 rupees to 40 rupees for his diesel fuel, finally that is the product. At least 10 to 12 rupees will come to him. And if that happens, that fellow will be a very big pain for the sarpanch and the powers that be in the village, and the large farmers who own the tracts of land. Their land, they cannot put Jatropha crop. Think about this. So it is not what meets the eye. It is much bigger than that game. And here are people who are involved in the ethanol lobby who are stopping all this. I'm not naming them, but you will realize what kind of politics we have in this country. So, sans that politics, I can tell you megawatts and megawatts can be generated. Dr. Patil, please.
Thank you, Professor Iyer, for giving me this opportunity. The first and foremost, see, I am here as a consumer of the power. I represent a large industrial estate in India called as Thana Belapur Industries. We got 4,500 industries, big, medium and small. And also we interact with various industrial estates in Maharashtra, particularly MIDC areas, which are 166 MIDC industrial areas, who all need the power. And also since year 1999, I am a official consumer representative at Maharashtra Electricity Regulatory Commission. So the whole gamut of this is really how much power really you need for our country. Let us boil down to just only to the Maharashtra. How much you really need? Today talk about 3,000, 4,000, 6,000, 7,000 gap, demand and supply gap. On what basis you are talking this? We are talking on the basis of 16 hours no power at agriculture area. 16 hours you are not giving power, and that has been taken for granted that they will be not given power. They should be happy with those 8 hours or 10 hours. So that is their ration for them. You should not ask beyond that. That is a fixed. And even regulatory commissions throughout country, since the entire Electricity Act, it is based on the surplus power supply. The scenario today here is total demand and supply gap increasing every day. So the whole sections of Electricity Act boil down to one section 62 where there is shortage situation and jugglery interpretation of all that. And today another aspect is my installed capacity of generation is 15,000 megawatt. You may be shocked to hear that. Just you look to SLDC, including the new plants generations in Maharashtra, 3,500 they are generating. What a massive inefficiency. That's one side. Other side is, see, we need power. Our estimations and the global competitions, also we are into the big race. And today what we are talking about is 8 to 10%. But in a pocket of areas, the growth is told to 14, 15%. How will meet it? As far as Maharashtra is concerned, we have in depth we have known the situation that another 5 years, 6 years, you don't have any power. In future also, their projections, other things are not at all really backed up by the public sector undertakings. Only private sector undertaking like Adani and Indiabull. So other day only we had a detailed discussion on 2,000 megawatt to be purchased from these for future 25 years at a particular rate. All this leaves us only one aspect. If you really want, you are the last man in the village to progress, is this distributed generation of power. There is no other solution than that. Because you generate at one point at Vidarbha and circulate throughout Maharashtra. See, the basic issue not only in Maharashtra, throughout is, on the average there is 30 to 30%, 35% T&D losses. What does it mean that? The generated power, more than 1/3 it is going just without billed, without paid. Are you so super rich you want to get away with it? Even Central Electricity Commission has put in 15% as the last bottom line. We are not following that. We are not able to. They can, they will, but the will is not there. So this is the area where we thought, because industry needs power and we are a short supply of this power, therefore we thought, why not go on our own and produce it? We had rather people who are daring to put in power plants, captive power plants. One of the captive power plant, our own Professor Iyer led Standard Alkali of 35 megawatt captive power plant. He was one of the guiding force. We have got at Mukund another 30 megawatt power plant. We got another at Hadili, another 4. See like that, but that is not going to be sufficient. And increasingly these costs also are rising. They are somewhere to getting to the tune of 6 rupees, 7 rupees, 8 rupees. Then we wanted zero load shedding for our kind of areas like Pune, New Bombay, Thane. Then later we advanced that to revenue areas, 6 revenue districts, zero load shedding. How to do it? We have been offered as a franchisee, we went for certain aspects. Then ultimately, the model which we talked about, zero load shedding, based on the diesel sets, failed. Because the cost went to 14 rupees, which has to be paid by the now ordinary consumer. And also, the industry which went for that, they also withdrew. The scenario was that this power of 350 megawatt, it has to be purchased, otherwise you have to load shedding for 4 hours in a given area, and particularly for all these metropolitan cities, it will be coming up to 6 area as per the protocol. So what is the option then? So then there is a long-term power purchase agreement. Then day-ahead power. We, as an organized association being a franchisee, we used to purchase 110 megawatt daily from Tata's at the rate of 8 rupees 50 paisa. Similarly for Pune, similarly for Thane. 350 megawatt, this kind of rate, day-ahead basis. Many times it is not available, therefore again you have to load shedding. And you cannot match your orders with this kind of power situation. Therefore, we believe that we must have sustainable development. We must grow, but also protect our environment. Therefore, whatever you are going to do is it has to sustain environment, and whatever we can call in different words, global warming or non-polluting or carbon credit, ultimately end up as a sustainable development for which are the eco-friendly fuels. The question is very clear that eco-friendly fuels are more of natural gas, and second is biofuels. Because since the topic is only touching on the gases and biofuels, therefore I am not touching on the solar or wind and other alternatives. Now on this, we had a real debate, and ultimately, as a one model area, let us take the development in terms of using gas, generating power which is deficit for our area. We require about, for a New Bombay area, about 300 megawatt. 200 megawatts are supplied by MSCB or utilities. 100 megawatt is just a need for today. It is going to increase. Therefore, we thought that let us go by gas-based. We worked out a sort of rate how it can be. And in the meantime, Government of Maharashtra, they floated 11 months bidding for the power supply. 11 months, the rate will be fixed. So there were 31 bidders, out of which ultimately couple of bids were selected. How much rate it comes to? 7 rupees. Plus again, you talk in terms of FAC, the one of the biggest. So ultimately, where we end up? But vis-a-vis, if you have a decentralized your own system, it has got two great advantages. One is, because this combined cycle, the efficiency of that gas goes up by 75% to 90%. It is one of the biggest advantages. And secondly, see, this is being a local, there is no T&D losses. So that is one of the another biggest area is that T&D losses you have already gone through, and your efficiency factor has gone up. Therefore, the cost definitely it will come down. And areas, already eminent speakers have spoken, if where gas pipelines are there, go along the pipelines to set up this kind of facilities. If not, use LNGs, transport it, use at a particular place. Here what we are propagating is all the MIDC industrial estates. They must have that kind of units. They must have the gas-based units, either by pipeline or by transportation. They must use the gas because that is the only way they can protect the environment simultaneously while growing their own production and exports. So we fully support this idea, and who are going to come up to give the better kind of services by use of gas, almost all the industries in Maharashtra, I am watching for it, they will welcome it. It is not just the business alone, it is a crisis. The crisis, the power crisis is really so imminent, you have no option but to look for yourself. You cannot depend upon today the utilities. The gestation period, as already Professor and other people also said, 6 to 7 years. Around 250 megawatt of copper wire, it took 5 years to come. Therefore, see, I can go on an example, but in nutshell, there is no option but to have gas-based facilities to generate power in a decentralized manner for a sustainable growth with increased efficiency and absolutely almost nil, we can say, contribution to emissions. Even we are propagating even this coal-based. Ultimately, you have to trap carbon dioxide because coal has got immense weight, pollutes. Agreed. But what is the step? Next step for that? Today, your major plants are on that. Then why don't you design the plants in such a way so that you can have carbon dioxide is trapped, stored and used? So that solution we should really think in terms of technological way. That is another aspect. Professor Ayer asked me to speak about Jatropha. In one of the sessions we had given a full exposure on that. See, we friends of ours, because basically I am agriculturist. Similarly, our friends over the part of what we call old Bombay, like Solapur, Kolhapur, Sangli, these are more or less dry areas. And there are a lot of wasteland also. And those 1 acre of that kind of land, even it may not produce 2 quintals of jawar. But at the same time, you have to really till it, spend it, pay to the labor, look after those bullocks, and the expenses is nothing. Just, I can say that it is only pecuniary. You have to depend upon that landlord of the village for his sustenance. And these lands or whatever area, they are also small ones. It is not like 30 acre, 50 acre. Each individual farmer, he has 2 acres, 3 acre, 5 acre, 10 acre land. Therefore, we made an agreement with them, 30 year, give it, you will be the owner of that. You will plant the Jatropha, the seeds will be purchased by us, and you will be given so much number of rupees per whatever kg. He was happy, he started growing. Samplings we gave at the rate of 1 rupee, sometimes 25 paisa, 50 paisa. That also went on. When the money started coming in, as Professor pointed out, they started becoming a bit more independent of those saukars. They started having their own, they started sending their children to school. Then they started, Tola kon sangitle sagar dhanda. You must grow, bloody fellow, this jawar, Jatropha kashalat. But since we are united, ultimately, till today, it is more than 2.5 lakh acres of land is under this cultivation. The thing is going on, and that is going to be ultimately put as a biodiesel. One of the experiments, even our experts in the biodiesel also say, we worked the use of biodiesel in some of our industries, and we use it in our own diesel, Indica. It is really very clean fuel. And I tell you, on the highway, it used to get around 30 kilometers. Without any modification. Yes, without any modification. You use biodiesel. See, that was something very unique. And we put it. Today we have got few units here who are producing biodiesel, Mr. KD Chemical. But the capacities are very limited. You cannot. And like a foolish, what we did experiment is Nichalkaran and others by giving this biodiesel, and they were happy. And next week we don't have biodiesel to supply to them. They started telling that what is this nonsense. So, but ultimately we identified a couple of areas and said that okay, you run it, no problem. But we cannot have, because that kind of production is not available. That is the reason I am looking for that biodiesel, particularly in a country like ours where there is a good lot of wasteland is there, barren land is there, irrigation facility is not there. All these kind of loans, I don't want to get into those kind of suicides, loans, etc., which are more of fraud. I am telling you, actually things are different. But when there is available, and these cooperatives can work beautifully well, because he himself cultivates, that land belongs to him, the money comes to him, we are only facilitators. And ultimately, we have to give the best of the saplings to him so that it grows the better quality, so that his economy also improves. And for us, it is a big gift of the nature that we can have biodiesel, which is pretty natural and non-polluting. So these two aspects for sustainable growth, and in this scenario, these are the must, and we should adopt for it. That is only for my comments, and especially what Bhattacharya's experience. If I wanted to visit Delhi, because soon we are going to have, because already we are in a final stage of setting up 110 megawatt with Agrico, and the rates and everything has become much viable. There is a great cooperation with the Mahanagar Gas, Mr. Gupta, Managing Director. And fortunately, we have got a gas grid at our Thana-Belapur industrial area, so that we don't have any paucity of gas. And the rates also are compatible. One shocking thing, we asked how much land you require. For 110 megawatt, his requirement is only 3.5 acres. That's right. Correct. But we said that there should be, because we say 100, tomorrow morning one of the unit fail, then it becomes less. Instead of that, let us have contingency also. So that let us have that. And further what we thought, that our need is going to go up. It is going to go up to 150 or 200 megawatt with increasing. And the nearby industries also are wanting to join. So we have to make that cushion, so that land once we claim or request from MIDs, once we get, then get more land is very difficult. Therefore, we said let us get into that kind of, that we are tying up, maybe within a month's time, already we are through. And secondly, the evacuation of the power. That also nitty-gritties we are working out. And there was also, earlier when we talked about supplying to the grid by our own captive power generation, the utilities try to purchase it us. They want some different rate than what actually, it is less than a manufacturing cost. They want it that way. That we did not agree for that. But now in this case, we has told MARC already that you go for it, you fix the price based upon the cost plus. That is the economy, which is. Therefore, since in this experiment, the capex is not there, only opex is there, therefore, it can become a successful. And once, because everyone is looking at it, because we are pioneers in a number of things. When tremendous amount of pollution problem came, we undertook what is called as common effluent treatment plant of 2,300 industries of various categories, chemical, petrochemical, till up to engineering. 28 MLD, million liters per day we are treating to the spec. That is the reason I was using whether how water you are using, because this we want to recycle. The problem comes here is you fellows, because with our textile processing units, we can supply them at 2.5 rupees, this recycled water. They can use for various purposes. But MIDC is not agreeing. They say that this thing will go down, they will not take my water, so that so much amount of my revenue will be lost. No, that we are debating. But see, that is a challenge how we could meet. Similarly, when hazardous waste problem came, we set up our own hazardous management unit to do the best. Treatment cost, people are telling that, Dr. Patil, you are mad. Our own treatment plants don't run, and you are talking about combined treatment plant. The rate for them, it was 28 rupees. Today, our combined effluent treatment plant, the BOD is 15, COD is varying between 120 to 150, PHS spec at 7, and my treatment cost is rupees 6 per liter. It is pretty good, and we succeeded on that. Similarly, hazardous waste, we treat all the hazardous waste. We don't incinerate. We went in for physicochemical treatment, neutralize it, and go for landfill. And incineration, that Taloja other plant is there, we send it, but we are trying to avoid it. Now we are negotiating with the cement industry that it can go, because they go up to 1200 degrees centigrade. If the metallic content is well managed, it can go to the cement factories. The incinerator, which is another bane, we should really avoid it. That is how even common, see, we have our own fire and emergency response station. There is a cooperative spirit, what I am telling in our area. All the plot holders are our members. And we run our own fire and emergency response station. See, that is the reason we said that here the challenge that has come, it is power crisis and environmental crisis. And you must meet it environment friendly way to generation of this power and distribution. I must indeed thank you for Falcon and Professor and all you others. See, making this as a progressive movement, it should become movement. It should not just end up meeting here, then going back and we'll meet next time. No, let us progressively make it a movement and it's challengeable. Thank you very much.
So friends, because the discussion is quite strong and a lot of this paucity of time will be there, so there is an idea from the forum, the inaugural, if we can club the next two, because we want to go to the cocktail, and I would request the biofuel and the last session will be a little bit of a mix. And in the meanwhile, we can ask some questions and then we can go for a break before I bring it back. I'm sorry I will have to mix the two sessions because I'm really running short of time. Maybe we'll have few more forums, because see, we just started last year and we have only one forum per year. Now we want to do more, like we want to do round tables and a couple of more forums. So I saw less interest as we did in the past, but I'm seeing more interest in the topic. So as it is growing, so we will do this kind of a thing, I can promise you. So in the meanwhile, some questions for these guys, 5 minutes, and then we'll break and then we'll come back for the mega session kind of thing, We can make it an interactive session, combining the fuel issues and the power issues both. Questions? Anybody? To any of them?
Professor Iyer, as a consumer, tomorrow I'm not aware of how much price is going to increase and whether I will get this supply or not. Can't we, in case of power generation, can't we think of some kind of hybrid model? Like we have in vehicles, we can run on gas as well as on diesel and some kind of things. Can't we really think on that type of model in case of power generation also?
See, I tell you, it's very complicated. See, right now, it's a pool, energy pool. The user does not know what type of power he's getting, whether it's a renewable, whether it's a, conventional power, it's coal. It all goes into grid, and the pool of power, you get a certain cost. But what has happened with this kind of a model we have seen over the last, especially the last 3 decades, is we have deteriorated. We as a country, with all our democratic ways and things, we have ended up not giving power to people. And what we call as cheap or sasta power, there is nothing called sasta power. It is either you get power or you get no power. And as somebody said, that it is a political situation. 16 hours of electricity you don't give our villages, and that is an advanced state of Maharashtra saying this, I can tell you that I'm 18 years now into Maharashtra, 17 years into Haryana. I don't think there is any difference between these two states as far as the crisis goes, right? I think even Haryana is a strong state. It's an industrialized state, but uski power situation is same. Wahi halat hai uski. So I think this question of hybridization can go in a decentralized grid. Like hybridization will happen with, let's say, combined gas and, let's say, biofuel based stations, but also solar would come in. Also micro wind will come in. That will come. You have to make a renewable portfolio. And I'm sorry to say that even if I like it, I was actually a conventional man. But I'm very clear that in the long run, coal will have to give way to these. That nuclear thing I'm telling you, it's gone for a fart. You read my editorial? After